Warning: the following podcast show that you're about to listen to will include explicit language and content in which you, the members of the audience, may find offensive. Audience discretion is advised.
Welcome to another episode of the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience.
Yeah, boy.
Where anything and everything is a subject matter on the show, and no subject matter is ever taboo.
Damn, that's what's up with you.
And now, your host with the most, Mr. Kim Hoang. Bro, am I getting paid for this?
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? How in the world are you? That's right, it's your boy Kim Hoang, the Asian sensation, the host with the most, the man with the plan, the guy that can bring the power in less than a half an hour, or maybe a little bit more, and most recently, the dude with the right attitude. And welcome to another episode of the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience, where I, your host, who is also in, some senses, your head chef, your head maitre d', is presenting you another great episode in the flesh. And I'm really glad to be here. I'm glad that you guys are here. It is a great day. It's a beautiful day. And to be honest with you, it's starting to feel like summer, really quickly. By this time, we just are like maybe 2 days now, maybe 3 days now, in the month of June. The month of June. So, summertime has arrived, baby, officially. And it feels great. I'm looking forward to the warm weather and the hot weather and so forth, because, to me personally, I am a, warm weather, hot weather kind of guy. I don't like coldness at all for anything. That's just not my jam. Like cold weather, like winter, snow and all that, I can't do it. I just can't do it. I joke around this a lot that maybe it's something in my Asian DNA, because Asian people were just naturally, warm climate people. I'm not saying warm-blooded. I would say warm climate people, because, you name any type of Asian and they'll tell you, yeah, they love, warm weather, whether if you're from, if you're Indian, whether if you're Iranian, if you're Vietnamese, if you're from the Philippines, Thailand, if you're from China, if you're from Japan, South Korea, we'll tell you, we love warm weather. That's just our thing. That's just our thing. So here we are in the prototype studio in Wheaton, Maryland, ready to do this. Obviously, I am just really excited, and I'm very happy to be here. It's awesome, just to have this moment and just to create content and do what I do best. I mean, that's when I'm recording and when I'm doing episodes and I'm presenting it to you guys, I feel like I'm in my good element, my creative element, and it's something that I'm very proud of. It's something that I feel like, wow, this is my moment, and no one can take it from me. This is something that makes me very happy, and I'm just glad to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. It's incredible, absolutely incredible, and I like it. I like it a lot. It's just, simply amazing, hands down. So let's go ahead and jump into it. We do have a lot of, subjects to talk about. And, we definitely have a lot of things that we need to cover. And, of course, segments, upon segments. So, first one I want to talk about is more of a serious matter. Just something that happened to me recently, but I wanted to kind of put this in together with the main context of safety. And I'm talking about more like safety, being out there in the world, and you're just making sure that, you're safe and you're not in harm's way, or, you're not getting into the line of fire, if you will. As we all know, we all have our own lives and we live them, right? And we do a lot of things here and we do a lot of things there, a lot of activities and so forth. But sometimes there could be a potential threat or danger. And that potential happens, like, it's very common. Like, it happens a lot no matter what you do. Whether, if you're going out shopping for food, if you're hanging out with friends over in, a big city, going to like a sports game, or, you're going out to the club or going to a concert or something like that. It's always good to acknowledge that you're there to have fun. And that's what we're doing. But there is sometimes that potential that something could go bad. And it's happened, from anything from like, you might get into a fight, maybe somebody might be picking on you. Maybe for the ladies, you might understand this, that, you might be harassed by some guy that, you didn't warrant. You're just minding your business, having fun, with your friends. And all of a sudden there's just like this dude that's just like really disturbing you and just trying to put the moves on you and making you feel uncomfortable. And at that point, you're just like, oh, this is not good. It's not good. It does happen. I hate to say it like this, but I feel like it's more common now than people think, And the thing about it is that, we just have to be careful about the situation, the scenario, and we have to be careful about, what we do and how we handle it. I'll give you a specific situation that happened to me recently that definitely put me on red alert. And I didn't even know, like, maybe a lot of people think that I'm probably overreacting, but I was just thinking for more of myself that, when this happened, my anxiety was like really at red alert. And my martial arts side was also on red alert. And this is what happened. The situation was recently, I went out to Buffalo Wild Wings on a just a regular day. And it was like, early in the afternoon. I'd say about like 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So, it's a good time because, it's not late at night where, potentially a lot of people could be, intoxicated or inebriated. I was just out there eating food, watching sports on the television and whatnot. And it was good. I came in there, I said hello to the bartender and, some people that were sitting down. And I do that, the greeting, just as a rule of thumb, like, be nice, be polite, and, just let them know, hey, I hope that you're good and I hope everything is well. So far, so good, right? Everything is pretty good as I'm just hanging out, eating, and having fun. Little did I know that there was going to be a guy sitting on to my right that was going to make the whole situation just, a little bit awkward. Now, understand, I didn't know this person at all. This guy's a complete stranger, so, where it's going a little bit. Now, if it's somebody that I know personally, or I know because of a certain situation, like a coworker, I wouldn't feel as bad. I'd feel a little bit more comfortable because I actually know that person. I know them for some reason. Like, coworker is from a professional setting. So, of course, I want to say hello and I want to be polite and then, and just, make some small talk. If it's somebody that I know that I really respect, yeah, I definitely will, like, make a big habit to shake hands and give a hug and, and ask how they're doing and strike a conversation. And that sort of thing. But this person didn't even know at all. Total stranger. Comes up to me and he takes his left arm and puts it around my shoulder and around my head. At that point, I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, really? Like, you're entering like this? Okay, this is a little bit interesting, but, whatever. And he was like, yo, what's up, bro? How you doing? And I'm just like, I'm doing pretty good, pal. How you doing? Which I really wasn't. But, in this situation, I think the best thing that you could do is play a poker face. You know what I mean? But again, guy putting his arm around me, making me feel uncomfortable, smelling like alcohol. I think he was a little bit intoxicated. As soon as he put his arm around me and I felt uncomfortable, I just literally just grabbed his arm and just kind of set it off, as to let him know physically, hey, I don't like that. That's just something that, I don't feel comfortable with. Like, if I knew you personally, that might be different. Now, please understand the situation. Obviously, I wasn't alone. Because in front of me, I had like maybe 2 bartenders. To my left, I probably had like maybe 1 person. And behind me, sporadically, I might have had like, people here or there sitting in tables. So I wasn't, obviously I wasn't alone. So obviously we have to understand that whatever the situation is, there are going to be people that's going to look, they're going to observe, and if they need to, out of the kindness of their heart, they probably might interject and, do whatever it is that, people need to do for safety. So, the guy basically goes on and he's like, hey man, do you like video games? And I was about to answer the question. I was like, well, brother, and he's like, yeah, I like video games and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, whoa, slow your roll down, Dex. Slow your roll. Because let me tell you something. I was about to answer your question because it's a fair question, and it's one of those questions that I do enjoy answering because it's something that sparks my interest. You interrupted me. So before I was interrupted, I want to let you know that, yes, I do like video games, and I have a lot of love for video games. I play a lot of video games. Whatever video game is out there, chances are I probably played it. So, he's going on and on about video games. And then, he's switching subjects. Then he's getting a little bit closer to that. I'm sticking my elbow out just a little bit just so I can let him know, like, look, don't get too close, pal. Don't get too close. Again, my martial arts side is on red alert. So I want to do everything I can to protect myself and make sure that everything is good before engaging in some kind of like altercation. Now, the rule is, as a martial artist and in life, if you can avoid the fight, the physical fight, do it at all costs. Because that way, you don't put yourself in harm's way. You don't end up potentially getting yourself hurt or hurting the other person. It's going to be a safe thing all around. And I am that type of person that, I'm more of a lover, not a fighter. Now, at this point, I really am starting to question, what this person's intentions were. Because I didn't really know what was going on. You're talking about video games the 1 second, you're talking about something else, you're getting a little bit too close, in my personal space. Something has to give here. Something really does. So, after a while of trying to have a conversation with me, and I'm trying to be on the defensive and deflect the possible danger, he literally says, I'll be right back. So, obviously, when he disappears, into the shadows, shall we say, I went to the bartender and I said, man, this is getting a little bit strange here. Are you watching this? And he was like, yeah, I'm watching it, bro. But don't worry. If it gets a little bit out of line, we got you. And I said, thank you. I really appreciate it because, honestly, I am feeling a little bit weird about this. This is kind of awkward. So he comes back. Surprisingly, he's, halfway sober, halfway not. And the next thing you know is that he's gifting me something which I thought was like a red colored Game Boy. Turns out to be like a one of those portable video game consoles that you can play a lot of video games of different video games from different eras of different systems. And he just said, I want to give you this, man. I want to give it to you. And I'm like looking at him like, why? And I'm like literally slowly putting the gaming console like maybe out to the front, And he said something to the effect of, well, a lot of people, when they look at me funny, they think I'm coming in with bad intentions, and you're the only one that really wasn't judging me, which that part was a little bit of a lie. I was kind of judging him from a different perspective. But, he was, somewhat appreciative and so forth. And yeah, after that, he just gave me the thing and he just left. He paid for his bill and he's gone. Now, it would have been one thing if you kind of like approached it, in a different way where you didn't seem to be intimidating and you didn't seem to be, frightening in a sense. Again, you just come into a person's personal space thinking you can talk to them like you know them, put your arms around them. That's not a cool thing. I mean, luckily in this situation, nothing, more happened than that type of situation of a conversation and whatnot. But, overall, I'm pretty sure that you guys can understand, my concern for my safety. And you guys should be in a situation where you have to look out for your safety as well, hands down. And I say this because, once again, safety is important. You want to be in a good situation where you're going to engage in activities and not have the fear of potentially getting harmed in some way. And, cool things, cool tips that I can give are like the follows. If you're going to go ahead and be safe, number one, you should do it in numbers. Have a lot of friends with you, a lot of people with you, because, the more friends that you have with you, the better the chances of your safety. Like if you're out there alone and then there's a person out there, one-on-one, it's not going to work out. You might be in potential danger. If you had like 5 friends with you, including yourself, and then there's just like that one person or 2 people, they get outnumbered. So, those 2 people in general can't take on all 6 of you. You know what I mean? The numbers don't look good. Try doing activities, that is like maybe during the day, when there's still sunlight. Because people that are trying to do harm to you most likely would do it in the nighttime versus the daytime. Make sure that if you're going to do something that there's a lot of people, especially like if there's like people of security, like, security officers, police officers, you know what I mean? That sort of thing. And know what you're going to do. Know what you're going to do. Know the area. And just have a good idea of whether or not, like, hey, I'm going over to this side of Annapolis, Maryland. Oh, this side's a good side. It's actually, there's a lot of visibility. Not a lot of danger. It's well controlled. It's a good area. Yeah, we should go there. It's fine. We'll be okay. Just know your surroundings, know the situation, know the scenario, and you'll be fine. Because safety is important, guys. It is so important. Be safe out there. Don't put yourself in harm's way. Don't put yourself in a situation where, oh my goodness, I could be a victim. No, don't do that. Safety first and safety always. That's my 2 cents on that. Real quick, I am going to go ahead and take a little bit of a break, guys. But when we come back, we will come over to the next segment of the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. So do what you got to do. Take a break, go to the restroom, get a drink of water, answer a phone call that you might have missed, or, write a text or compile an email from your smartphone device. But come back, because the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience will be coming back in full force and in full effect. I want to tell you about an amazing store that's really good for all musicians, music enthusiasts, and a whole lot more, which is Chuck Levin's Washington Music Center in Wheaton, Maryland. That's right, you heard it correctly. Since 1958, Chuck Levin's has been actually tearing up the game when it comes to the music scene. And guess what? Since 1958, they have been the store to go to and a must-visit destination for any serious musician passing through our nation's capital. So, if you're actually a person that's in a band looking for a new instrument, such as an electric guitar, an acoustic guitar, a bass guitar, or maybe some drums, if you're a DJ looking for like the greatest DJ equipment, such as turntables and so forth, they got you. Hey, are you actually in an orchestra playing a woodwind instrument, brass instrument, or strings? They got you. They got all the classical instruments that you need. And let's not forget, for all my fellow podcasters, need a microphone? They got you. Need a podcasting vocal track recorder? They got you. They got everything, man. And I'm telling you, it's the best place to go. So if you want to check them out, go ahead and do so, because right here at Chuck Levin's, they're the best. Forget the rest. Mess with the best. Located over at 11151 Veers Mill Road in Wheaton, Maryland. They're open Monday through Saturdays, 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. If you want to know more about what they have to offer, you can go over to chucklevins.com online or give them a buzz at area code 301-946-8808. Chuck Levin's Washington Music Center. Like I said before, don't worry about the rest. Mess with the best.
And now, back to the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience with your host, Kim Hoang.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. Thank you. We really appreciate that, guys. No, can we get a round of applause one more time? Thank you. Holy cow. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Yeah, we're back. Just like that song, from Eminem. Guess who's back? Back again. Kimbo's back. Tell a friend. Guess who's back? 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 Guess who's back in there? There you go. That is my ode to Eminem. That's as much as Eminem as you're going to get. So don't even worry about it. It's not that sing along with Kim, and it's not that type of situation. It's just just me having a good time. But in all seriousness, I'm glad that you guys are back. Obviously, that means that it is round 2. I'm really excited, and I actually want to talk about something that is of my interest, and lately I've been following a lot about it because it is that time of the year. As many people know, I love professional wrestling. I am a wrestling fan to the core. Obviously, I've been watching a lot since I was a kid. I don't know exactly what age it was. I keep on telling people, the story is, when I tell people, is I think I was probably let's see, 79, I think I was maybe about 7 years old. That is as early as I can remember. That I was a fan since I was 7 years old. And being that I'm 47 now, I have been a fan of pro wrestling for 47 years. I love it. As a kid, I used to pretend that I would be a professional wrestler. I thought that I would become a professional wrestler at one point in my life, and then I was nah, I'm growing up, and I kind of know the situation. I would never do that, but I've always been a fan. And the one thing that I never understood, when I was young, but I understand now as an adult, is that when you have like your favorite wrestler wrestling in in an organization that you watch for many, many years, and then they're no longer there anymore. Like they make some kind of like a work, if I, the loser leave town match, if I lose this match, I will never wrestle for this organization ever again. And then they lose, and that's their swan song, and then you never see them anymore, until maybe 3 months or 6 months down the road, you see them in a rival organization, maybe under the same name or a different name, but it's them. And they're wrestling for that organization. You're like, whoa. And then you just find out later on in your older years that, they got released. Now, recently, there have been a lot of releases in the WWE, which is the World Wrestling Entertainment, formerly known as the WWF, which was the World Wrestling Federation, but years later they had to change their name, for legality reasons, because the World Wildlife Federation actually owned that acronym way longer before the WWF and WWE. Now, when people ask, let me just say it like this: when people hear wrestlers get released, yes, they do get released. Why do they get released? And how does this work? And what goes on? And such and such and such. Well, sometimes in the storyline of wrestling, it could be a whole bunch of reasons, the loser leaves town, or they make a work and they just go up and leave, or whatever they do, and they head to a different organization. The real reason is because that they were released and they were let go. A lot of people have to understand that, being released from an organization like that is like actual business, like real life business. You know what I mean? You have, a lot of money that you have to budget. And sometimes something that, works in the forefront, a lot of the money gets budgeted over there. While whatever money that you have left over, you do have to kind of divvy it up. Well, what happens to the other, let's say, in the world of business, what happens to the other products that don't get, as much money or stuff like that? Well, they have to unfortunately cut it and let it go. Same thing how it works in professional wrestling. If you're a big star and you bring in a lot of money and a lot of capital, but by that I mean selling a lot of merch, putting a lot of, bodies and seats in live events, getting a lot of pull and a lot of following and interest and so forth outside of, the wrestling spectrum, outside of the ring, you're definitely going to you stay on top for sure. And especially if you're an active champion, that automatically means that that person has a lot of clout and they may stay in for the longer run, you know what I mean? Whereas wrestlers that have been there for a long time, not getting any more steam, and as much as they are respected and as much as they are liked, and they want to keep them around, they financially can't. So they have to go ahead and release them. And that's what happens. Now, what happens to those wrestlers that do get released? Well, depending on the situation with their contract, sometimes they have a thing where a no-compete clause. You know what I mean? When you have a no-compete clause, that means when we go ahead and we release you, you can't compete in pro wrestling for another organization for, let's say, 3 months. You have to wait 3 months until when that obligation ends, and then you can go ahead and start wrestling for another organization. Other organizations out there, right now, AEW, Ring of Honor, New Japan Pro Wrestling. Sometimes with the Latino community that are professional wrestlers for the WWE, they may have a stint at AAA, which is a wrestling promotion in Mexico. But then again, I think they they had the WWE actually bought them out, so that was their latest acquisition. There's also Puerto Rico Wrestling, which is WWC, and just a whole bunch of indie promotions all around the United States. Now, if you go ahead to the indie circuit, yeah, the pro is that, if you were a big name in a previous organization, most likely you can probably get in there, no problem. Here's the fact, though. Here's a thing that scares a lot of people. If you do get in and you're wrestling indie, you're not going to make as much money as you were in the pros, like, WWE or AEW or something like that. You'll probably get paid very little at that. And pretty much after that, like, all your expenses, you have to cover that for the travel, for, like getting a plane from here to there, or, renting a car and driving from here to there and back. Yeah, you have to cover that. Those are now your expenses. They're no longer the expense of, the big time wrestling organization that you repped in WWE and AEW and stuff like that. Those are your expenses. I have a boatload of wrestlers, like a lot of wrestlers that were released from the WWE. Some of them I was really shocked, and there's going to be like 3 people, maybe 4 people that I'm going to go ahead and talk about specifically, and giving them more time. And I'll try to save those 4 near the end. All of these people were in the main roster of the WWE that has recently been released. And again, I'm kind of shocked about this. I didn't. Some of them I can say that I saw it coming. Some of them I did not. So, let's just go down the list a little bit. Like Precious Paul Ellering, the famous manager of the famous tag team of the Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors. He was a manager for a tag team called the Authors of Pain, which were the members Razor and Ankum. And Razor and Ankum also recently were on the chopping block and were released by the WWE. Other people that got released includes Cedric Alexander, Sonya Deville, Blair Davenport. This one hurt right here. The tag team of Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, the Good Brothers. Giovanni Vinci. If you don't know him, he was formerly of Imperium. So, yeah, he was released. Carmella. For those that remember Carmella, Mella is money. Yeah, she did a lot for the women's division of the WWE. She was released this year. The Queen of Spades, Shayna Baszler. That one was a little bit surprising. Not the one that I was going to talk about, in that sense. But, if I could give Shayna Baszler her flowers, a tremendous person that came from originally from the mixed martial arts side of the world, especially with the UFC. She did compete in the UFC and was in the next Ultimate Fighter show that you have like all these people that are trying to earn contracts to the UFC. She was in it, yeah. And she was wrestling for a long time for the WWE. And the fact that, unfortunately, she got released is really, really surprising to me. I didn't see this happening at all. I was quite surprised about that. I was really surprised about that. I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. Like just to hear this is like, wow. Didn't see it happening. Didn't see it coming. I know that she started wrestling for the WWE through NXT at first, from at 2017 until 2020, and then she made her way into the main roster later on in 2020. Where she actually went into Raw. and she's been in there for a long time ever since, you know. And I'm just like, wow, the fact that you released her, a real ace in the hole, being in the company for 8 years, that's wild. You know what I mean? That's really wild. I did not think, again, that was going to happen, but it did. It really did. But people that, you know, that really shocked me, that made this list, you know, woman wrestler Dakota Kai. Dakota Kai, oh my God, you know, I loved Dakota Kai. I followed her a little bit ever since she hit the scene in the WWE. It goes as far back as, if I remember correctly, she actually competed in the Mae Young Classic, which is like a all-female wrestling tournament that was held on WWE NXT. And she was quite the dynamo. Like, you know, when she first came in there, I liked her little you know, bubbly self. You know what I mean? Like, she had a character where it was like really bright and bubbly and just like, you know, all smiley and so forth. And it was really, really cool. And next thing you know, she actually got into the beginning of her career at NXT in 2017 until 2020. Then later on, she made it into the big time. You know, she made it into the big time. I think it was that she actually got in around, if I remember correctly, she got into the main roster on 2022, I think, when she actually got in. It was SummerSlam. She was there alongside Bayley and Io Sky. And yeah, it was just kind of crazy to see, like, wow, a talented woman like that, she's made it to the big time. And I thought that she was going to stay there for a very, very, very long time, because I felt like she was a person that had a lot of promise, a lot of talent. And then next thing you know, she got released this year. A lot of reasons why possibly that she got released. Maybe it was because of all the injuries that she had suffered throughout maybe this year and last year. And it was just like maybe they felt like she was like a physical liability. So at this time, they just felt like, well, if she's getting injured a lot, we really need to go with people that, that are a little bit younger and have a lot of steam. Because right now, at the age of, I think she's 37, she's got like, she's not considered to be old. She's still like good in the game. But, obviously when you're older, your body doesn't take a lot as it used to. So I think that's probably why they released her. And I hope that she actually continues to wrestle in the indies and make a name for herself. Maybe go over to AEW, you know what I mean? But we'll go back to that in a second. Braun Strowman, oh my God. Talk about like one that I didn't think was going to happen. Braun Strowman at one point was actually released from the WWE and came back. And, what it was is that I remember Braun Strowman getting released the first time. And after that, he was going to other different types of, indie companies and so forth, just kind of wrestling and doing his thing and whatnot. I think that he was wrestling a little bit. I think that he did like something in Ring of Honor, and then he did like this thing called Control Your Narrative, which was like a traveling show, and that was pretty cool. You know what I mean? He made his return back to the WWE in 2022 and then recently got released. Carlito. Oh my God. Talking about a blast from the past. I loved I am a huge Carlito fan. Carlito, when he first came to the WWE, he was known as Carlito Caribbean Cool. You know what I mean? And I at one point, fun fact, I actually did dress up as Carlito for Halloween one year. You can ask my boy Davey Suicide. That's real. I really liked Carlito. I thought it was awesome. I ate the apple and I did the thing where like he was like, I spit in the face for people who don't want to be cool. I did that. I actually did that, and people actually thought that was like the most funniest thing in the world. They thought that was a riot. It was really, really cool. And I remember Carlito actually first coming into the WWE in 2003. You know what I mean? So that was actually pretty cool. He was there in the WWE at 2003 until 2010. So at 2010, he actually left the organization and went on to do other things. He went over to WWC in Puerto Rico, where he first started to get his chops, and then he started wrestling at various organizations all around, and independent circuits all around in the U.S. and international tours and whatnot. Finally resurfacing in 2021, in the Royal Rumble, where he was just a face, and he was actually competing, but got eliminated like really quickly. Then, obviously he came back in 2023 for a little stint with, being a member of the LWO. And then, joining the Judgment Day. And then recently Carlito confirmed that, his contract with the WWE was expiring and it wasn't going to be renewed. And, that really broke my heart a little bit, because Carlito, I thought, he was a great talent. I thought he was incredible. And, he had a lot of great history. And I felt like, he was somebody like, if he was given a second chance, he definitely would take advantage of it and just do whatever he could. Probably something a little bit more better than, his first run, when he was in the WWE the first time. And then, of course, there's R-Truth. After 17 years in the company, they let that brother go. This one caught a lot of heat because obviously, how well liked R-Truth is, and how respected he is in the organization. Everybody loves him and so forth. And there's a lot of reports saying that he didn't do anything wrong, or he wasn't, in bad terms with the company. It's just that they didn't want to renew his contract. I think that the WWE felt like there was not much more that they can do with him and so forth. And to be fair, R-Truth, had a lot of monikers like K Crush and K Quick and, Ron Killings, which is his real name, and then R-Truth. And, they put him as like a mid-carder at best. You know what I mean? But, he was a U.S. champion in the WWE. He was a tag team champion in the WWE. And an unprecedented, I don't know if you want to count it in the record books, a 54-time WWE 24/7 champion. Some people think that it was just for a comedy thing. I just think that, if you're doing something like that, you obviously like the guy, and you think that he's an incredible person. He definitely drew a crowd. A lot of people, loved R-Truth. They liked the fact that, when he came down to the ring, he was singing and rapping over the music, and he was doing his stuff. And, the way that he connected with the crowd was like super, super cool. Super, super cool. I would have thought that R-Truth would have kept on wrestling until he felt like there was nothing left for him. Like, he would keep wrestling on his own terms and leave on his own terms. You know what I mean? Never did I think that was going to happen. And I don't even know what's going to happen. There's been a lot of rumors about maybe a lot of fans are getting a little bit ticked off and they want to, somehow fight for him to come back or whatnot. But I don't know. Now, what will happen to these talented wrestlers and personalities? Like I said before, sometimes, once you're done, you actually wait for a couple of times until you can compete again. And then you compete back into like another organization like, AEW or New Japan or whatever. And then, you just, cut your teeth in there for a long time until hey, unless you want to settle there and you want that to be your new home forever, or you're just using it as a stepping stone to go back to where it all began. For most of them, it's the WWE. Now, the only thing I can say is that, that can happen. That's one possibility. I like to call it the recycling effect, because you're starting from one end, but then you're going back, full circle, going back to where it started. You're recycled. Some people want to go ahead and do something else, that they want to pursue other things in their life outside of wrestling that they couldn't when they were a wrestler. Some people want to pursue acting. Some people want to pursue, their business ventures, doing this and that and everything. And that's cool. You know what I mean? Regardless of whatever happens to them, I wish them the best of luck, and I think they're incredible. And I think that each one of them still have something to offer in the wrestling world. And, I just hope that they continue to wrestle in somewhere, so just that they can stay active. I mean, who knows? Maybe 3 years down the line, we may see them over in the WWE again. But until then, they were released basically because they were trying to... the WWE was trying to make room for the new generation, for the new talent that came from NXT, and now it's their time to shine in the main roster. Some people call it's the circle of life, and that does happen. Do I agree with the situation? I can say this. From a business standpoint, I can understand it. But as a fan, I don't agree with it. I feel example, people like Dakota Kai and people Braun Strowman and R-Truth still have a lot of, gas in the tank, if you will. And I think, honestly, the reason why that some of these talented, wrestlers and athletes were, that they were released from the WWE is the fact that you didn't really know how to utilize them that well, and to put them in such of a way that they would stay relevant and maybe give them a push or a title run or something like that. Because I felt like Braun Strowman, he could have had another title run in some case. Maybe an Intercontinental Championship, maybe a U.S. Championship, something of that matter. R-Truth, definitely, I felt like he could have had another championship run. Recently he did go against John Cena for the title at Saturday night's main event, and that was cool. I feel like he could have gotten more opportunities there, but who am I to say? Carlito, I thought that him being in the Judgment Day was really cool, but you had to utilize him the right way, and the fact that the WWE didn't use him the right way, I kind of felt like that was a little bit of a slap in the face. But who am I to say and who am I to judge? I am forever going to be a fan of pro wrestling, no matter what organization it is. But I just know, going forward, especially in the WWE, I can say that things are never going to look the same again. They're never going to be the same again. And I'm just kind of wondering, where it goes from there. So, knock on wood that it's going to be a good moment, for everyone involved. And it's going to be a good moment for those that got released. Maybe it's just time. It's just a symbol that, the next best thing is coming for them in their world of wrestling, in their career of wrestling. That's all I got to say. So let's go ahead and take a break. When we come back, the greatest segment of them all, the Q&A forum, the Q&A segment, question and answer. You ask them questions, and I will answer it the best way I can. And we're going to go ahead and take a break. will come back. And please come back because, obviously there's going to be more on the way here on the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience.
In life, we all want to have great health and excellent physical fitness. However, it's never given, only earned. That said, if you want to go to a gym that will help you to get there, then look no further than Kicked Up Fitness at National Business Parkway in Annapolis Junction, Maryland. Their mission at Kicked Up is to provide the ultimate functioning training facility that focuses solely on your success, with a diverse team that's highly qualified and dedicated to taking your fitness goals to the next level. Kicked Up also offers a variety of group classes and personal training programs that provide something for everyone, regardless of your fitness level. They believe in working hard, achieving results, all while having fun. So come visit their facility in person, which is located at 114 National Business Parkway, Suite 100 in Annapolis Junction, Maryland, 20701. Now, if you see my friend Sean Queen, who's the owner of Kicked Up, tell him that Benny Chow of Miscalculated sent you, and he'll hook you up with a complimentary 7-day pass just to try it out. Need more info? Give him a call. 410-888-9066. Email them at kufitnessnbp@gmail.com or visit them at their website at www.kufitnessnbp.com. Kicked Up Fitness. Never given, only earned.
And now, back to the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience with your host, Kim Hoang.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. What is the word? Well, the word is that we have come to the point where it's about to end, and you know what we're going to do. So real quick, as always, I will read our little disclaimer that the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience is asking for help on a voluntary basis to anyone out there that would like to assist us and our podcast show by the ways of sponsorship and or financially donating to the podcast show to help make the quality of our podcast better. All proceeds that we raise will go towards getting better equipment, more equipment, such things that we need, such as, microphones for our in-studio guests, those XLR cables that are required for those microphones, the headphones for our in-studio guests, and a MacBook Pro, which actually helps us to create and edit more awesome episodes for your listening pleasure in the best quality possible. Here's the thing. Whatever you want to donate, no matter what the amount is going to be helpful. Now, here is the joke. Like, say, for example, if you want to, donate $5 million, which I doubt anybody would, but, you never know, to even, as low as $5, hey, every little bit helps, and we appreciate the help. And you can make a donation through the following. PayPal and Venmo. You can do it that way, either or both. And just go ahead and make a donation by, marking my tag name. So find me at Kim Hoang MD Actor. Once again, that's at KimHoang MDACTOR. You can find me there on PayPal and Venmo, and then make a small donation of whatever amount of your choice. And for those that have it, Cash App. We have Cash App. So just go ahead and donate whatever you like under my tag name, $ Kim Hoang MD Actor. That's once again $ KimHoang MDACTOR. And ladies and gentlemen, without any further delay, you want it, we got it, and we're here with it. the Q&A session. That's right, the question and answer forum. That's right. This is the part that I'm very excited about. This is the Q&A segment. It's just amazing. It's incredible and it's wonderful. And this is how it works. You ask the questions and I will answer it. Normally we have 7. Lately I've been generous. So today we have 7 official questions and 1 bonus question. Grand total 8 questions. So without any further delay, let's get into it. I have the questions right here. Let's do it. Question number 1. Kim, what was your opinion on Showtime's Shameless show? And what was your reaction that after 11 seasons that it ended? Teddy from Trenton, New Jersey. Teddy, I loved Shameless. My only thing was I was a little bit late to the game, because I never really saw it until, recently, where I found out, hey, it's on Netflix, all 11 seasons. And I binged watched every single one of them, and I thought it was incredible. I thought it was really incredible, and I thought that it was well done. All the way from the very beginning to where you learned a lot about the characters in general, to seeing them grow up throughout the 11 seasons and just see where it goes. In my understanding, I understand that this was the longest reigning original written series in cable TV, movie TV, whatever you want to say, history, which was awesome. A little bit ticked off that it ended the way that it did. I thought that they would have been able to have a few more seasons. That would have been great. Or at least they could have had maybe instead of having Shameless, they're making a new series out of Shameless, something a little bit more, different. Kind of like how you have Young Sheldon, and then they had a new series based from that show called, I think it was Georgie and Mandy's first marriage or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, I thought that they would at least had done that. I think that all the characters, from Shameless could have had something in their new series, and I think it would have been awesome. I don't know if they'll ever do it. That's a wishful thinking, but I hope so, because I was a true fan of the series, and I think it's incredible. So much, in fact, I actually bought the whole series off of the Apple Store, formerly known as iTunes, for a cheap price. You know what I mean? A sales price. I was definitely that guy. So, yeah, I'll always be, a fan of the show. And Frank Gallagher, to me, will always be a funny dude, Just my opinion. Question number 2. Kim, what do you think about the titles in the martial arts like Master and Grandmaster? Annabelle from let me see if I can say this right, because I feel like I'm going to butcher it. Paducah, Kentucky? I think that sounds close enough. Paducah, Kentucky. Number 1, I never knew that there was such a town or a city called Paducah in the state of Kentucky, so I'm a little bit shocked. Number 2, when it comes to titles about, Master and Grandmaster, I don't mind. I think out of respect, I think that if you have earned that title, if you earned that rank, in my opinion, I feel like you deserve to be recognized by that title. Example, if you earned a 4th degree or a 5th degree black belt, I wouldn't mind calling you by that title, Master Williams or Master Simon or Master. Let me just go ahead and come up with a weird one here, Master, Kowalczyk, something like that. I think that, you put in the time to earn that rank. Why not get that recognition? is what I'm saying. Now, it's different because some instructors out there that earn that rank, they're just like, I don't really consider myself a master or a grandmaster, even though I've earned the title. Just, sir or ma'am or just instructor to me is, fine enough for me, which is that's really awesome that they're saying that. And I guess they're just humbling themselves. But out of respect, I definitely would give them that title. That's just my opinion. Question number 3, Kim, do you like those philosophical questions like, is the glass half full or half empty? Jerry from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Jerry, I think those kind of questions are kind of fun because it just kind of tests, where, you kind of think things in a certain light. And there's not really a right or wrong answer. If anything, when you deal with those questions and you answer it, to me, I feel like you really thought things through, so you're a little bit more open-minded, and you're very analytical. And I think that's a real cool thing. So, I like those questions. I know there's some people that don't have any patience for it, but, I think it's cool. So, no worries. Question number 4, Kim, name a movie that you have seen in your life that still makes you emotional. Nancy from Manhattan, Kansas. Good question. If I had to name a movie, it probably would be Brandon Lee's The Crow, which was filmed in, I think somewhere between 93 and 94, I think. Which still gets to me to this day whenever I watch it, because it just symbolizes the fact that was Brandon Lee's last movie ever before, that unfortunate incident on the set of The Crow where he got shot and he died. I swear it's one of those things that I look at it and I'm like, oh my goodness, this movie is incredible. He did such a good job in acting in that movie as well as doing the action. I always thought that Brandon Lee was the better actor than his father, Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee was the better martial artist in those martial art action films. So for me, it's always going to be The Crow. From every scene, from every song in that soundtrack, it still gets me in the feels, man. Still gets me in the feels. So that's a good question, though, no doubt. Question number 5, Kim, in the martial arts, how important is it to earn a first-degree black belt in that art, or any martial art for that matter? That question comes from Anthony of Oceanside, California. Good question. Anthony, I think it's very important to earn a first-degree black belt in any martial art that you train in actively. At least that. Because it shows, your growth, your maturity, and the fact that you were working so hard that you basically finished what you started. When people just learn the art, train in the art for an X amount of time, but never earn the black belt, that just speaks for itself. That just says that you left the mission incomplete, and because you left the mission incomplete, you didn't finish what you started. You didn't master the basics of that art, and you would have never known what the potential could have been had you, tested for the big one and got promoted to the big one. So that's why I always tell people it's very important that if you train all the way. Finish what you start. Go from the very beginning, and then go to the end all be all, if you will. Ending it with a first degree black belt. And even though I know this is not part of the question, I would say after earning a first degree black belt, keep going. Because again, you never know how much potential that you have until you go deep in the art, like very deep. And, in order to find that potential, you got to go all the way to earning, that first degree and at least say that I actually mastered my basics. But even still, even if you did earn a first degree black belt and you quote unquote mastered the basics, you haven't mastered anything. You just begun. You truly begun the voyage of that art. So there you go. Question number 6. Kim, we know that you have TikTok and that there is a specific girl that you follow on TikTok that recently got a tattoo in your honor. Please explain that situation. Kelly from Tucson, Arizona. Oh boy. Yeah, that is 100% true. There is a girl who is from Brazil, who is from the state of Santa Catarina, who is living in Florianopolis, who by that, she's living there, but she's originally from another city in that state called Chapaco, and her name is Juana. She's a sweet girl. She's Brazilian. Her family history traces back to the fact that, their family is originally from Italy. You know what I mean? And I followed her for quite some time. I really loved her energy and her personality. And I love the way that she made me feel very welcome in her live streams and her broadcasts, always being very inclusive. And she's one of the type of people that, if you see her, it's awesome. If you don't see her for a long time, she knows that, you're probably busy. It doesn't mean that you don't support her. She knows that and she recognizes that. She understands my position with mental health and is very supportive of that. She's always giving a lot of love and respect in that atmosphere, and she's just supportive in general. So much for the fact that with that type of situation, I felt like it's very easy for me to support a person like her, and doing what I do to show support to the point where, according to what I understand in her broadcasts in that circle, I am the highest ranking person in her followers' history, being at level 45, which is pretty high up there. So much, in fact, that, because I got level 45 in my honor, because, in my name, my screen name, it says Kim Loves Sushi. She actually got a piece of sushi as a tattoo on her inner bicep, which was really, really cool. Like, I thought that was really awesome. Like, I felt like she did not have to do that. If she didn't want to, it would have been okay. But the fact that she did something like that, in honor of me, is incredible. I love Juana dearly. Juana's a great friend. She is somebody that has been there for me and supported me, and I just love her carefree attitude and just her approach on life, and I think it's incredible. And I think all people should try to be a little bit like her. Now, I know that she's not, the number one broadcaster in Brazil, not being like, hey, I got this and I got that and stuff like that. But so if Juana is listening to this, I just want to say that, Juana, I love you. Thank you so much for being a great friend to me. Thank you for being such a tremendous individual and a great support to me. The fact that, you're doing exactly what you're doing with broadcasting, it's incredible. Even though, again, you're not at the A league, you're at the B league, but you're still doing it. And you're doing it well, and you're having fun, and you have a lot of love and support by a lot of people who watch you religiously. It's amazing, and I want to broadcast just as well as you do, because I feel like you're the standard of what broadcasting is all about on TikTok, and and that's all I have to say. That's all I have to say. Question number 7. Kim, name a cartoon from way back in the day that you used to watch religiously. Kyle from Tacoma Park, Washington. Okay. I feel like Tacoma Park, Washington doesn't exist. I know there's a Tacoma, Washington. But Tacoma Park, Washington? Okay, well, hey, whatever it is, man. I mean, it is what it is. That said, Kyle, back in the day, obviously, I watched a lot of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles back in the day in the 80s and a little bit of the 90s. But when the 90s came out, I was always a big fan of Batman the Animated Series, which later on became The Adventures of Batman and Robin. And I loved it. I mean, I loved the cartoon. I loved the fact that the plot of, Batman the Animated Series, they made it into a theme where it was like very 1920s to the 1930s, those old style cars and so forth. And when they were using like guns, it was like Tommy guns and revolvers and stuff like that. It was very, how can I say it, nostalgic, and it was really cool. And I just thought that each and every episode was really, really awesome. I paid attention to it. I had my face glued every time that I saw, Batman the Animated Series, later on called The Adventures of Batman and Robin. It was great. It was absolutely great. Only one way to watch it was back then. It was on Fox TV. Now, I recently found out that the whole series from Series 1 through Series 4 is on Amazon Prime Video. And I think because it's a DC comic thing, you can watch it, I believe, on HBO Max, the streaming service. So yeah, if you have HBO Max, you can watch it there all the time. If you have Prime Video, that you can watch it there too. The only thing is that when you watch it on HBO Max, it's guaranteed to be in that library forever. Versus if you're watching it on Prime Video, it's there now, but who's to say that it'll be there by the end of the year? So, bonus question time. Question number 8. Kim, is there something that you could wish about when it comes to other podcasters? Alexandria from Meridian, Idaho? Okay. This is a hard question because honestly, I don't really know how to approach it or answer it. But let me just say it like this. I just hope that podcasters just kind of find their way and find their niche, find their style. And once you actually find that, just to stick with it, you know what I mean? I also think that, with podcasters, we have a responsibility to make sure that we do things the right way, that we're a little bit more positive, because at the end of the day, we tell a story and we want to leave something of a good impression, I think, to all those that are watching, all the audience members, because we want to give them something good to remember. We never want to leave like a bad taste or a bad impression or anything like that, later on people would think, negative of us, So find your style, find your way. Let's keep it positive, in some certain fashion. And let's just continue to keep creating, you know what I mean? Is the bottom line. That said, ladies and gentlemen, we are done. This episode is what they say, in the can. You know what I mean? We did it. Another one in the books. I'm really happy about it, guys. It's awesome. Real quick, as always, you can go ahead and follow us on the following social media platforms. Social media such as Facebook. Just go under the search box and type in the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. We will be there, so like it and follow it. We are also on Twitter, now known as X, and on Instagram. Please follow us by, following our tag name at TKHPC Experience. Once again, at TKHPC Experience. All in one word, lowercase letters. You follow us, we'll follow you back, because that's how we do. We are on a lot of podcasting platforms, 6 of them, in fact. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, Audible, and iHeartRadio. Now, do me a favor. Please like, follow, and subscribe to our podcast on all of those mentioned podcasting platforms. If you have Spotify, please give us a 5-star ranking. And if you have Apple Podcasts, please give us a 5-star ranking and a positive written review. Because the more times that you actually do that, then there's going to be a high chance that, our podcast could be on the front lines. And then it could be something like, you see it and then you go like, oh my gosh, that's the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. I remember that Catherine was talking to me about that. She liked it. She said I should like it. I should follow it and subscribe to it on all of the podcasting platforms that I am a member of. Yes, yes, and yes. Please do so, and thank you. And also do us a real quick favor. Spread the word about us, whether if it's through your social media or whether or not if it's in person, like if you're talking to your friend or your mom or your dad or your brother or your sister, your aunties, your uncles, your cousins, your grandparents, whoever, maybe a coworker, maybe a dude across the street. Let them know about the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience, because it's what we call brand awareness. Sharing is caring. The more times we promote, the higher the chance that people may know about us and listen to us. Last but not least, if you want to be a guest host, if you have any questions for our Q&A, if you have any constructive criticism, please email us at the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience at gmail.com. Whatever the subject is, put it in the subject line. Then in the body of the email, write out your email, air out the grievance, and then send it out. Within a day or two, I will actually by then see the email, read it, and respond back, because that's what I like to do. Guys, thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. Your love knows no boundaries. And the fact that you're here with us, you're continuing to be with us, that you're supporting us, that you're continuing to support us, and you're showing us love is incredible. Like I've always said, this podcast is your podcast as well. I can't do this without you, because without you, there is no purpose, straight up. And I'm going to keep doing it until I can't anymore. So unless you tell me to stop, or, the wheels on my wagon have fell off and is irreparable, then that's when I know it's time. But until then, I'm going to keep going, because I'm going to do it for you. I'm going to do it for me. I'm going to do it because I love this podcasting, art, and it's incredible. So please be safe out there, because it doesn't do us any good if you do dangerous stuff and then you end up getting thrown in a pine box and getting buried 6 feet under. We don't want that to happen to you, because we want you to be healthy, we want you to be happy and living life, and you deserve it. And anybody else that tells you otherwise, you can tell them to step away, because you have no time for that negativity, no time for that business, only positivity. So that being said, for the one time here in Wheaton, Maryland, over at the Prototype Studios, which is not far from the Washington DC Metropolitan Area, this is your boy Kim Hoang, the Asian sensation, the host with the most, the man with the plan, the guy that can bring the power less than a half an hour, maybe a little bit more, and now the dude that has the right attitude. I want to say thank you very much. I love y'all. Thank you. We appreciate it. And we will see you again real soon. Better believe, because we're not going anywhere. We're just going to keep going. Peace.